Hello and welcome to the Vergecast, the flagship podcast of titanium. All kinds of titanium. Very thin titanium, very thick titanium, titanium technology, lots of titanium. I'm your friend David Pierce. Neil Abtelis here. Hello,
How's
sir.
it going?
We just got finished watching Samsung's Unpacked event. There's a lot to talk about here. We got some new phones, we got foldables, we got flippables, we got watches, we got all kinds of stuff. I just want to preface, Neil, was maybe the most impressive product introduction I have seen in 2026, and I'm very excited to tell you why. But first, I want to know.
Wait, was it because Spider-Man was there?
It was
favorite part of the whole thing.
There was a brief moment where I thought, "Oh, good, we're not going to get that deeply awkward moment at every Samsung event where something weird happens and no one knows what to do about it."
Honestly, the reason I agreed to do this live stream with you was because Samsung can't help itself. Like, I know Samsung can't help itself, and watching you go through it is very important to me.
I really appreciate that. Yeah, one of the great moments was that they brought on what's his name? Jacob somebody. Yes, Jacob Batalon, who plays Ned in the Spider-Man movies. He did what I would call like a reasonably normal product integration. He explained why his character would use a Galaxy device, which sure, fine. And then for like 8 seconds, just there was Spider-Man. And then they went right back to it. We were going to play the clip, but no one needs to live through that ever again. But I do want to talk about these phones, Neil, because I think the reason I am so compelled by this particular event is that I think Samsung did a thing I have been waiting for it to do for years, which is explain why you would want any of these devices, why you would want a device that folds, why you would want a device that's a different size that folds, why you would want a phone that flips. It actually like attempted to make a case for these kinds of devices. And I want to talk about it. But first,
Sure.
I need you to do something very important for me.
Yeah.
I need you to rank the folding types. We have wide, we have tall, and we have flip. Those are the three phones. We're going to get into them. But I want to do them in the order in which you are excited about the size and shape. So we have tall foldable, the TV remote, we have wide foldable, the passport, and we have flip phone. Which do you want to do first?
I'm going ranking best to worst.
Yes.
My personal best to worst. Everyone else can make up their own minds. I got to go wide, flip, tall. And there's probably a novelty bias here because wide is the newest, and maybe it will make my heart sing in new and exciting ways. Mm-hmm. Although Dom Preston from our team wrote it up. He saw it. He's held it in person. He's used it. Obviously, he's used some of the Chinese wide foldables that came out first. And he's like, this thing is way better in person than in any of the photos. And I get it. And I'm kind of excited about the squatter form factor when it's folded, when you use it that way. And then like the big decision to open it up. And be like, I'm gonna watch a video sideways, whatever that thing is. Yeah, that's my ranking. But I'm assuming there's some novelty bias here.
My ranking is the same. I also think it's possible that there is some novelty bias, but that thing that Dom described in his piece for us, which is looking at the thing, it feels kind of short and kind of fat, and you think, well, this probably won't be as comfortable to hold in my hand as a longer, skinnier phone might be. And then you pick it up and it feels normal and natural. That reaction seems to have been everyone's reaction. Yeah. I've been reading stories. I've been watching some of the videos. Like this is a phone that was made available to a lot of people in the last couple of weeks. Almost everybody seems to have had the reaction of picking it up and being like, oh, this is actually maybe the exact right shape for this. Because it's a little shorter, I can reach most of the screen with my thumb, which turns out kind of important on a phone. It makes it's 16:10 on the outside, so it's a little squatter than normal, and it opens up to a 4:3 screen on the inside. Both of those, in a way, if you're just going to say I have one screen for everything, right? That feels roughly correct to me. And this is the thing Samsung spent a long time trying to make the case for, that you open it up and you can watch movies with less letterboxing. You can play giant Fortnite, which they really held for an applause moment that did not come, which I thought was very funny. But there's this sense of, I think that everybody has spent the last several years trying to figure out the right middle ground for foldables. You want something that is phone-ish on the outside, but a properly usable phone on the inside as well. And this just seems like the right, or at least the most right answer we have had so far. Even though, again, looking at a picture right now, it does look a little squat and a little fat. But I'm trusting everyone who has used it. Neither of us have used it, but I am trusting everyone who has, who says this thing seems to feel right in your hand very quickly.
It is a remarkable consensus of vibes. Right. Obviously, everyone's got to get the phone. We got to review them. We're going to do all that. But the early vibes are, oh, this was the right size and shape. Mm-hmm. I will give credit to Samsung for retconning its way into an explanation for why it's the right size and shape. The Chinese makers have been doing this. There's lots of rumors that Apple's about to do this. Samsung's like, have you ever thought about making it a little shorter and then opening up to 4x3? And it's like, you could have done this any time in the past several years. You waited until the market told you what to do, and then you did, in classic Samsung fashion.
Yes, very much so. So I wrote down the sequence of events that they imagine will transpire on this phone. Samsung is very determined to tell you how you use your phone in these events, which I always get a kick out of. But again, genuine kudos for going way out of their way to be like, here is the purpose of this device in this specific way. And the wide fold, which is the Z Fold 8, and we're going to get into the names because, as ever, Samsung's naming systems make me angry and they don't make any sense. But here we are. So this is the Z Fold 8, and the way that they described it is basically purely as a content device. And the beginning of the flow is you're on the outside screen and you're watching Instagram Reels or YouTube Shorts. That was like, this is what everyone does on their phone all of the time. We're just going to start there. So you watch it, and you watch it normally. It looks more or less like a normal phone. That's actually a little bit complicated because these companies are going to have to do a little bit of work to adapt to this screen in a way that makes sense.
They did immediately announce that Instagram has partnered with them on adapting the Instagram app, which is not a thing Apple will be able to do in a few months' time.
I think that is correct. So that's great, and that's fine. That's going to work. And then the idea is you open it up to dive in further is essentially the idea. And on the one hand, you can see it bigger. On the other hand, you can see video on the left, comments on the right. And she said something along the lines of, because half the fun of the video is seeing if everyone agrees with your reaction, which sure, fine.
Sure.
You can then expand it to fill more of the screen, and then you can start to dive in and make stuff yourself. And then they go through the whole creation flow, right? And that's side-by-side editing, so you can see the changes you're making in real time as you make them. Like, again, this is a real argument about how a person might actually use their phone that makes some sense to me. I don't know if this is the one user flow that justifies buying a $1,900 phone, which is what this costs. But it's like, I kind of get it. I get why this is appealing and why it would be useful to have more screen available to me when I open the phone.
But isn't that the same argument as the tall foldable?
So, yes and no. And this is what I mean by Samsung doing a good job explaining the difference. The way Samsung seems to see it is that the tall foldable is for using two apps side by side. Foundationally, that is the thing. It is a productivity device. I think that's fine, right? And they explain well why this might be useful, what you might use it for. All of the things were like work related. They imagine the tall foldable as extremely productivity focused, and then the wide foldable is the more casual content based one. And again, all of this is like made up nonsense about phones, and the reality is everything is everyone is to all the time. But at least they're starting to draw a distinction that makes a little bit of sense to me. You would not want to use two apps side by side on the Z Fold 8 because they would both be squat and there's not quite enough space. But the idea of being able to sort of move in and out of this like side by side experience into there's a little more screen, it's a little more immersive. Like there's something here for me. I don't know.
Yeah, I like that you're so taken with there's a little more screen to watch video in one app bigger, right? Like there's something to that. It's a very normal use case. I was more struck by how they, in the way that everybody has to do it now, they talked a lot about AI. And then at the end of the event, Rick Ostler was out to talk about Google Gemini task automation, which is yet another horrible name. And because it's launching for real now.
Yeah.
Right. On these phones, you can just say, hey, Gemini, do a thing, and it'll bop around your phone and do stuff for you. However slowly or quickly it can actually do those things. And it just struck me that the smaller screen, the more squat size of the Z Fold 8 might be the AI device everyone wants. Like you have a little phone. It's littler. and you can just tell it what to do, and maybe it will do that stuff. And then when you want a phone, you open it up and it's a phone. And like, there's something about that particular size and shape where I'm like, oh, maybe it would drive me to just ask the phone to do things. And it's not really about opening it up to see the comments on TikTok. Although I will certainly end up doing that because I think they're right that I do want to see the comments on TikTok.
But that's their argument for the Flip. Like, and this is where it's possible they're solving a 2-device problem with 3 devices. Sure. That actually what we need is 2 form factors and not 3. But the big part of the argument for the Flip is this is a phone you can put away, right? Like they spent a lot of time talking about it as a way to just ask your agents to go do stuff on your behalf and go about your life.
That's a lot of trust in the agents. Like, I'm not there. Like, I need a little more screen. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I also think it was very funny. One of the notes I wrote down in the middle of this is Samsung has developed a very good argument for the hardware here and why you need these different things and what they might accomplish in your life. No one knows what AI is for. And even still, it's like they ran the same 2 tropes that everybody runs out every time, right? It's for planning trips and buying tickets to things, which is not a like particularly complicated multi-step activity to buy concert tickets. Like, you just buy the concert tickets.
Well, it depends. If you're like, robot, go fight with the scalpers and the queues. Like, sure. Like, maybe that's the future.
Yeah. But I think, even in general, Rick Osterloh gets up and he's like, we have 40 new apps for making all of your AI stuff work. And then I think the list was retail, reservations, travel, event tickets, which, if you think about it, is buying stuff, and buying stuff.
Every Google demo ends in a transaction. They can't not do it. They have to point out
only
all of that data center investment is going to pay off because they will take tiny slices of your transactions.
We will automate your shopping cart process is essentially the limit of agentic AI at this point.
Right. But that's what is that? Ticketmaster, Uber, DoorDash, Resi, Expedia, right? And it's like, all right, well, I'm sure those apps are going to have something to say, but fine. If that's the limit of what agentic AI can do today, fine. But I don't trust it on a flip phone. Like, every time I use a Flip, I'm like, this is so cool. If only I had the discipline to use this tiny cover screen, right, to check stuff. Because that's kind of their vibe, right? Is there's the new AI-powered summary and the cards and the little widget that tells you to drink more water.
Yeah. Because they're doing a lot of work to get you sort of in and out of your phone more quickly.
Yeah, but the whole app ecosystem has to participate, or you have to fully participate in the Galaxy Health ecosystem.
Right.
Which I just don't want to do. I'm sorry. I just don't want to do that. And all of that it's gesturing in a future that isn't here yet, where all of the AI can read all the databases and present you with these neat and tidy summaries on a tiny little screen. And I don't think that's here yet. I think that might be a vision of the future that might come one day, but it's not here yet. And so this middle size, where it's a phone, but like an uncomfortable phone to use, will like usher some of that discipline in while the rest of it comes up. And then when you need a phone, you can open it and just like use a phone. And there's something about that size and shape that I wish the industry had coalesced on earlier.
Yeah.
And I'm quite excited to see what happens, both with the Z Fold 8, which we should point out is very expensive at $1,900. Mm-hmm. And obviously in a few months, Apple is going to attack the same form factor. And whether or not this is the form factor that lets AI become more of a primary interface, I think is a good and interesting open question. Because certainly this will be the form factor that most people at the high end of the Android ecosystem encounter Gemini. Yes. And certainly it will be the form factor that most people at the high end of the Apple ecosystem encounter whatever Siri AI. And that looks like the battle to me.
Yeah, I think that's right. And I think we're also likely to see Google make its own move in this space. I think it would almost be more enticing. I would almost be more optimistic if Samsung had more aggressively picked a single form factor, right? Because the eternal problem with Android is that everybody is supporting too many phones with too many chipsets, with too many versions of Android and too many ideas about how everything is supposed to work. And so if you're a developer, you end up either having to pick and choose your spots, or you just say, screw it, I'm going to make one app, plug into, the built-in ideas about how to scale it and move on. And I think what Samsung showed here is that if you make real effort to make this stuff make sense on the specific devices and specific form factors, you can do some really interesting stuff. The problem is almost no one is incentivized to do that other than Samsung until we agree on a form factor, right? And I think the candy bar phone has been the phone for a very long time, in part because I think it was the right middle ground for a very long time, but also in part because it was just one thing. It just became easier to have one idea about phones for everyone for a very long time. And I sort of wish Samsung had come out more aggressively and said, we think the Z Fold 8 is the thing. This is the new shape of foldables, and really pushed after it.
You think they should have killed the Z Fold Ultra 8?
I do.
8 Ultra.
I do. I think the 8 Ultra is actually sort of a fascinating device in that it is finally the thing we have been waiting for Samsung to do, which is make a foldable phone without very many compromises, right? This thing has it has the camera setup you'd want. It has 3 cameras, including a 200 megapixel main camera, the 10 megapixel telephoto, I think.
Yeah.
And the 50 megapixel ultra wide. It has big battery life. It has a lot of the camera features that you want. It has the new silicon carbon battery stuff, which I think is very cool.
We have to talk about that at length, by the way.
Let's get to that in one second. But I think this is the first. David Amell wrote for us that this is the first actually ultra feeling Samsung foldable, which is a big deal. It is Samsung's most expensive phone, and every time Samsung has shipped one of these, we've been like, isn't it weird that it doesn't have all of the best features that Samsung is actually able to ship of these phones? And to take that and say, okay, this thing is $2,000 and you have to make a bunch of compromises in the name of less durability and more screen isn't worth it. This one, still vastly more expensive, but at least makes you make many fewer sacrifices. So in that sense, I'm very excited about it. I still think it's just the wrong shape for a phone. Yeah. And I think Samsung agrees. Like, I really do think Samsung agrees.
Well, I mean, they're hiding some price increases here, right?
Yes.
In the same way that everyone is going to have to hide price increases. So they're calling this one Ultra because it is, what, $2,100? I mean, this phone is bananas. And so you can't have compromises at $2,100.
They're calling it Ultra in order to make it less obvious that it is less, or that it's more expensive than the last model.
Yep.
So that now that they have the one that's less expensive than the last model, which they're calling the successor to the last model, even though it's not, it's all very shady. And again, the names don't make any sense. and even several people on stage from Samsung could not properly say the names of these devices. And if you, an executive at the company, can't remember the name every time, you have a naming problem. But anyway, should we talk about this battery? Should we briefly?
We should talk about the battery. It might be the most interesting thing about these phones in a real way.
Make the case.
Well, I think we all know that lithium-ion batteries have had pretty intense ceilings, right? We've made them slightly better, but there hasn't been a big jump in battery chemistry that would unlock more battery life, faster charging speeds. Like, we've done a lot around the edges to make lithium-ion chemistry work. We haven't really seen new chemistries at scale. These are silicon carbon batteries. We have seen some of them in China, but this is the big new chemistry. Samsung spent a lot of time talking about how they are managing this chemistry and making it safe. Because, if you will recall, Samsung has had pretty enormous problems with their phones lighting on fire.
Yeah. One of the funniest things going in our comments of the stories we've been doing about this has been, there's one set of people who is like, I'm never, ever going to trust Samsung with a battery again. Do you remember the Note 7? And another set of people who are like, yeah, you know who else remembers the Note 7 is Samsung. And you know who definitely has built a hell of a lot of infrastructure to make sure that never happens again? Samsung.
We'll see. I had I have a friend who at the time of the Note 7 was like, this phone rules. I'm never sending it back. You can't stop me.
I respect that, actually.
But this is, the first sort of mainstream U.S. phone with a new battery chemistry. And if it is the vanguard of longer life, lower power, more efficient, smaller size, that is incredible.
Yeah.
Straightforwardly incredible. And I would like to see more battery chemistry development for an enormous number of reasons, not just phones, like EVs. Like, there's a bunch of stuff where new battery chemistries are maybe the most exciting thing that will happen in tech. And here we have some phones that are using new battery chemistries, I think in a very conservative way.
Yep.
Right. They're not going all the way in. It is a pretty conservative application of the new technology, but it is fascinating to see that Samsung has decided to make the leap.
I agree. And I think they're actually doing this in roughly the right way for exactly the reason you just described, right? There are other silicon carbon batteries out there with more capacity in roughly the same size or even smaller devices. And Samsung has been very straightforward about, like, we could have pushed this harder. We could have been more aggressive in how we wanted to think about the actual stated battery capacity on this thing. But it is also true that silicon is more volatile. It expands more. It can wear more over time. And I think Samsung is right to say this is still relatively new technology. We should do this more carefully. It'll be really interesting to me to see whether this comes to the next set of Galaxy S devices, which is very much the mainstream phone, right? Like these are not phones. None of the phones today are phones most people will buy or even consider buying. I think a lot of people should buy the Flip. We can get to that. Yay, flip phones. But like the Z Fold 8 Ultra is a $2,100 phone. Like you said, most people are not going to buy this. So it is a useful science project for Samsung. Its actual confidence will come when it puts it in the Galaxy S device.
How do you feel about a $2,100 phone, a $2,000 phone whose battery might wear down faster than a traditional battery?
Bad, Nilay. real bad.
I don't know. If you buy like a Ferrari, you're like, if I run it real hard, it'll explode. Like,
I mean, this is the thing, right? Like, there is no case for someone who is price shopping a phone to price shop your way up to this, right? Like in the way that Apple is very good at sort of talking you up the chain of its phones. There is no way that chain, in the same way that chain never gets you to, I should spend the money for the iPhone
I don't know, man.
Air.
Ned from Spider-Man vibe coded an app. Didn't you see that? They literally introduced him as the actor who plays Ned from Spider-Man.
I know.
Which
that
is
poor
not,
guy.
I mean, money solves all problems. But I'm just pointing it out. I mean, that was like one of those moments where, they're trying to make the argument for the form factors. And I can vibe code an app, or my fictional character can vibe code an app. I think these marketing departments get themselves so twisted. To your point, like, people are going to do everything all the time.
Yeah.
And like a neat little narrative about these phones, it just doesn't exist. Like, everyone just sort of opens the phones and does whatever they want. The only thing anyone really cares about is longer battery life. And they were able to address that kind of at length with silicon carbon.
Yep.
But I think the other dimension of battery life is, will you be down to 80% capacity in 2 years on your $2,100 phone? And if we don't pay off this bet on silicon carbon, will there be replacement parts that fit into this case once that happens? And like, all of that is wide open. I think it's like worth noting, if you spend the money, you're at the bleeding edge of technology here in a very specific way.
Yeah. But it is true that this is generally believed to be a huge leap forward in consumer electronic batteries. And I think like almost everyone is betting on this idea in some way. So I'm very confident that it will work. I do think you're taking a risk on the first version of it. I mean, I'll make
the comparison. It's different. It's definitely different, and the risks were different. But when all the charging blocks shifted from silicon to gallium nitride, we actually ran a big story on this back in the day. Like, Anchor was the first; they had an exclusive on it, and everything got smaller at first, and then everything got a little overpowered, and then a bunch of sort of like irresponsible alphabet suit Amazon vendors started making ones that would light on fire. Yep. But now everything is GaN and everything is small, right? And that was a big shift in sort of material science and charging technology and power density, all this stuff. And it just took a while for it to become the standard in a real way. Yeah. I think we're on the same kind of journey here. It's just, will it light on fire on an airplane is a different question.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, who knows? That's one of our review tests will be to take it on an airplane and just just go on several planes. Who knows?
We're going to rent a Cessna and then like panic for an hour.
Can I ask you how you feel about the word nightography? Which I
felt bad about nightography for years.
Okay. It's just every time I see that word, it just gives me like a visceral yuck face. I will say Samsung spent less time in this event doing weird camera things than it has in the past. There was a really bizarre ad with obviously AI generated gerbils. I think they were gerbils that I didn't super love. But they, whether it was just this event or not, there was much less focus on here's all the weird, creepy, uncanny valley stuff you can do with your phone. But they did say the phrase, focus on the moment and let Galaxy take care of capturing it. And I was just like, oh, this is when Nilay just throws his computer into the sea. You don't. What if the future of photography is you don't even take pictures? You
just tell the AI to capture everything around you.
You think, gosh, it would be great to have a picture, and it does it. That'd be so fun.
I mean, that is where the camera companies have wanted to go for some time.
Yep.
Right, is you just push this shutter button and it will decide what the best photo is, and it will make that photo for you. And they've gotten there. I think my argument is like, what's left for Samsung to do inside of their camera app? Right, we're already just rendering the moon out of nothing. We're already moving people around on park benches. Like we've announced all of the AI stuff short of there isn't a lens on this camera that you can reasonably announce. And so I kind of get why they're backing it off. Also, the backlash is real.
Yes.
It's just real everywhere. The idea that, AI pictures of food in restaurant windows are a thing that you should vandalize is just a thing that is on the local news now. This is a real story in San Francisco. And I don't know if Samsung wants to run right into it while they're also promoting agentic AI and their wide foldable.
Fair.
So I think like it's a good camera is like all they really need to say at this point. And the sort of like Gen Z, Gen Y camera culture is about point shoot cameras with flashes right now. Mm-hmm. So what are you going to do? Like you can't compete with that.
Yes, that's very true. There was one of them, I think it was the regular fold, the wide fold, where they said when you hold it up to take a photo, it will feel nostalgic, like you're shooting with an old digital camera. And I was just like, no, it won't. Like, what on earth are you talking about? It's going to feel like a phone. It's fine.
I watched 3 different TikTok videos over the past week of people adjusting the settings on their Canon point and shoots by like rotating the dials and going through those menus because they're incomprehensible. And I was like, something is happening here that 1, I love, and 2, all of these companies should pay more attention to. Like, people don't want this other thing. They're chasing this other look, which is good.
Yes. And I think to some extent there was evidence in this event that Samsung gets that. And I think that's part of why they talked so much about the hardware and about the way that you use it and about playing games and consuming content. And you get the sense it's like there's an investor mandated number of times you have to say agentic AI in a 90-minute presentation or else your stock price just starts to tank. But in general, they spent a lot more time talking about here's why this is a good phone that you will like in your life, and much less on here is all the wacky LLM stuff we've enabled you to do. And I think that's the right thing to do, right? Like in this particular case, especially for Samsung to say, here is our bleeding edge set of phones. Here is the stuff that we are demonstrably better at than all of our competitors in this space. They made a big meal out of how they're winning at foldables, and they are. Like, it's true. The question is this going to continue to be the sort of mainstreaming moment for these foldables? And if it is, can Samsung still win? Right now it's winning a game no one else is really playing in the same way.
At least in this country.
Yeah. But to say, here is what we think this is for and why we think you should use it, just felt good to me, right? Like they make a case for what you are supposed to do with your phone, and a few times made the case that actually what you should do is not look at your phone, which is not a thing we hear from phone companies very often. But you start to see these companies are starting to understand the way the winds are changing, right? That there is real energy for people to not want to use their phone so much and to want it to fit more naturally into their life and not be completely subsumed by it all the time. Is this the thing they're actually after? Of course not. They all want you to use their phones more and ruin your life. But they see the cultural change happening. And that's the thing that convinces me increasingly that cultural change is happening, is that these companies are now having to respond to it in a real way. We've spent 15 years watching everybody just power through the idea that people are mad about privacy and mad about the incursion on their lives and mad about the algorithmic stuff. And like everybody,
you're not using the screen time controls on your phone?
Yeah, they would throw you a bone every once in a while, but mostly would just assume that eventually they'll win and you'll give in. And they are now starting to move. And I think that to me is the clearest sign that there is real change happening. But you don't agree with me. You're making a face.
I agree with you in the sense that there's a lot of cultural pushback on the dominance of phones and particularly social media, and we see it all over the place. There are age gating laws all over the internet in various countries and states. Sure, we see the pushback against, data centers. I'm much, just to balance it out, AI is a technology that is really, really good at summarizing things. Mm-hmm. And a lot of what you're describing is like, what if the cover screen summarized more things for you?
Sure.
Do you know what I mean? Like, And so they're using the technology they have to make a feature that connects to a cultural thing, which is what they should do. I'm not even disagreeing with you. I just don't think that. I think that they're backing into an answer as opposed to being like, we see the cultural winds are changing. We ought to make a product. They're like, we have a summarization machine. Can we point it at this problem? And
Fair.
like, well, the next turn is like the agentic stuff, which will maybe point at the problem even more. And that, I don't know that they've connected the AI will make you use your phone less to there's backlash against technology as directly as maybe you would hope.
Maybe not. It's very possible that is the case. Also, I would point out that it's not called the cover screen; it's called the flex window. And that's 2 words it's 1 word camel case, and it's very important to me and to them that you get that right.
And the hinge is called the armor hinge.
Yeah, exactly. And it's all part of One UI 9 on the Samsung Galaxy Z Flip 8. I hate these names. It's too many words. I can't do it anymore.
There's a little more to say, but I feel like I have to ask this now because you mentioned Samsung making its case for winning.
Actually, before you do, we have an ad to play.
Oh my God.
So brief cliffhanger. We have an ad before I forget to do this, and we get to the end of the show and I get yelled at. Here's an ad. We'll be back in 60 seconds.
Support for the show comes from MongoDB. AI-assisted and agentic coding can help you build faster than ever. But if your data layer is a bottleneck, what's the point? MongoDB actually gets out of your way. MongoDB is a unified AI-ready data platform that empowers you to build scalable, generative AI applications. It eliminates the need for separate, specialized vector databases by combining a flexible document model natively with semantic vector search, full text search, and real-time operational data. Instead of wrestling with rigid schemas or translating data formats, MongoDB's native data model mirrors the language LLMs already speak. Plus, MongoDB gives you the flexibility to ship at the speed of AI. The ACID compliance lets you sleep soundly at night and scales to handle massive Fortune 500 workloads. Developers have a word for that kind of reliability. Actually, 5 words. It's a great freaking database. Start building at mongodb.com/AI.
All right, we're back. Neeli, you were saying.
Here's my wrap-up questions on the phones.
Hit me.
And we gotta talk about the watches and everything else.
Yep.
All right, we've talked a lot about how Samsung has made its case for foldables. We've avoided it thus far. But presumably in September, Apple's going to put out an iPhone that folds in exactly the same way.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to ask you a question that my friend Casey Newton asks us all the time. Did Samsung show anything here that would make one person buy a Samsung phone instead of the iPhone that they already have?
Yes.
Okay.
They showed that you can scan a QR code to switch from your iPhone to a Samsung phone, which, as somebody who has switched a lot of phones in the last year, boy, is that exciting.
Yeah.
Quick share coming across devices, big exciting thing. Everybody seems to have just hacked AirDrop, and Apple seems to have just waved the white flag and is like, whatever.
Right. Apple's like,
Share
we need
stuff.
to fight with the EU about AI. You can have stupid AirDrop.
Yeah, pretty much. But I think in general, Gemini is vastly better than Siri, even what we've seen from Siri AI so far. The what do they call it? Now nudge, all of these little things that appear in the course of using your phone, where you're like, we need to put that on the calendar, and it'll just pop up a thing being like, add to calendar. Again, Siri AI is trying to do the same thing. That's going to be a big part of the competitive landscape over the next couple of years, is the actual sort of minute-to-minute proactive experience of using your phone. Gemini is just a mile ahead at this moment in time. So if you think that is a core part of how you use your phone, this is a big part of it. I also think there's a shot that the iPhone Ultra, or whatever it ends up being called, is going to be even more expensive than these. I mean, and this is really the thing it all boils down to, right? Like, I look at all of these and I think Samsung got a lot of things right here, and I will almost certainly never recommend any of these phones to anybody.
This is
because
the problem.
they're just too expensive. Like, fundamentally, these things are just science projects, and until they are cheaper, they don't return what they need to in order. I have a hard time imagining what it would take for me to tell you to spend twice as much on your next phone. I don't think the iPhone Ultra is going to get there. I don't think these phones get there. I'm a little more compelled by the Z Flip just because it's only $1,200. It is some of this stuff in a vastly cheaper form factor. So that's all very exciting. But to me, this thing that they have where in a strange way, Google has allowed Samsung to be the bleeding edge of its own AI stuff, odd, but is really good for Samsung in the sense that it gets a lot of that stuff actually going on. They're starting to build better other devices. If you're a believer in smart glasses, there's going to be a real reason to use Android phones. I think Samsung is getting there. I think the switching costs between iOS and Android might just be prohibitively high for everybody. But I think at the very least, Samsung has made it much harder for people to leave and go to the iPhone, right? Which is that's the thing Samsung needs more than anything, is to not lose whatever market share this is to iPhone people who want
because of the foldable
the
iPhone.
best and wildest technology. The fact that I think a bunch of people will look at these and be happy with it and not feel like they have to go immediately buy the iPhone because it's so obviously the best foldable. Samsung did a relatively good job of that today.
Yeah.
I think.
I mean, my prediction that I was basically wrong about was that foldables would be a form factor shift that led to people switching. I don't think that happened in any meaningful way.
It's just the price, man. Like I think you would have been right if they had figured out a way to stop selling them for $1,800 and more.
Yeah.
And the iPhone Ultra is going to cost that too. And like, it turns out price matters, right? Like, not a lot of people bought the Vision Pro because it's $3,500. Like, most people, especially with this device, are not looking for the wildest thing at all possible costs. Like even the iPhone Air, which I think has had a funny sort of resurgence in a lot of people's minds. That like there are a lot of people who thought it was dumb and they use it for a while and they're like, oh, this phone's actually kind of lovely. Doesn't matter, right? Like, people are price sensitive. People are going to buy the things that are more stable and more familiar and in many cases cheaper. These things are just going to lose until they can compete on price. And you can maybe talk me into like $100 or $200 more. Like if you had the base at $800, the Pro at $1,000, and the foldable at $1,200, you start to be somewhere. But doubling the price, you're nowhere. I just don't think it's ever going to happen at that price.
Yeah. I'm very curious to see how Apple prices its phones, but I think the idea that Samsung made a big case for how people use these phones just a few months before Apple puts out similar phones and makes a similar case with their ability to market, it's going to frustrate a lot of people who know that Samsung has been shipping folding phones for a long time.
Apple is going to pretend that it invented foldable phones. And I just 100%. Want everyone watching and listening to know that we know it didn't. We know. We believe you. We're here. We've talked about it. I also really like this comment that just says, if I could replace the screen if they break for less than the price of a mid-range phone, then I'd consider them.
Yeah.
Fabulous point. That is exactly the problem. Should we talk about the watches?
We should quickly talk about the watches. Yeah.
You are a noted Apple Watch Ultra believer. Are you wearing yours right now?
I am, but the Apple, when in 27 this thing is gone. So
right.
I got to get a new one. So I'm in the market. Although ecosystem lock-in is going to drive me exactly to one option.
That is the problem. But so Samsung launched two. There's the Galaxy Watch 9 and the Galaxy Watch Ultra 2. The Watch 9 is basically a chip bump and a battery bump. Fine, easy upgrade from one or the other. The Ultra 2, I think, is more interesting, again, in terms of who Samsung imagined this for. They made a bunch of noise about divers. It has a spec for diving accessories that it adheres to. It does nitrogen absorption monitoring. They have a partnership with a well-known company that makes a diving app. They have sort of carved out this is for divers in the way that Apple has really tried to carve out this is for outdoor adventurers for the Watch Ultra. It has a bigger battery. This I actually thought was sort of fascinating. VSong on our team wrote a story about this. It has a 35% bigger battery than the last model, despite being actually a little thinner on the Ultra. And they say it gets 60 hours on a charge, but V got 70 hours on a charge from the last Ultra, which means there's a world in which the battery on this thing is like 3 or 4 days, which I think would be a big deal. I don't think this watch is particularly attractive. It's kind of big and blocky and undesigned in a certain way to my eyes. But I don't know. What do you make of this thing?
I agree with you on the design piece, right? Like the idea that watches are for tasks is challenging.
Sure.
When they are as powerful as these watches, like this watch, the Apple Watch Ultra, the sort of big smartwatches are little computers that can do little computer things. And then you kind of run into the fashion problem. I think there's a reason Whoop bands are really popular and everyone's making one because they're unobtrusive. I think the Google one you can just hide on like a regular watch strap on the back. So people are finding ways to like hide the sensors if all you want is the health tracking features.
Right. Totally.
And take the display away. And then you have these products which are gigantic. And it feels like they're only going to keep getting bigger in very specific ways and getting more powerful. And then you're like, what am I doing with this giant computer on my wrist? And maybe the answer is like having a great time. I know a lot of people want a giant computer on their wrist.
I just keep looking at these pictures, and it's one of our commenters just described it as circle and squircle, which I think is right.
Yeah,
and this to me
right.
it keeps looking like a prototype that they forgot to take the outer case off of, right? Like that the thing inside should be the watch, and somebody forgot to remove the outer casing before they shipped it. It just doesn't. There's something about this that just doesn't look finished to me.
Yeah, I mean they've got to handle all the ventilation. They've got to, you can see it's form follows function here in like a very specific way.
Yeah,
which is fine. The thing that gets me about all these watches is again the thing that most people love about their smartwatches is the health and fitness features, and there's just a lot of competition in form factor there.
yeah.
Like there just is.
And there's been this recent push towards no screen at all for some of that stuff. That actually what I want is just a device that collects everything, and then I will do all of the management of that on my phone.
Yeah. Here's the Whoop band. There's a reason. I mean, I find this thing bananas, but the CEO of Whoop is coming on Decoder soon, and we're going to talk about it.
Nice.
But you can see that there's that, right? If what Apple figured out in the sort of Apple Watch journey was this is a health device, and they really, really focused on it, they have maybe lost that plot a little bit.
Yeah,
right?
I think I agree with that.
And these screenless devices are coming up to take it over. And then it's like, okay, what is the smartwatch for? And we should put a big processor in it. We have all this stuff. And you just kind of, you get to, we're going to reboot this a little bit. And it's going to get even bigger and even crazier. And we're going to need air pocket ventilation, like all this stuff that you need. I'm excited for it because I think it's going to be a new turn in these watches because their core feature, health and fitness, is going in a different direction, is going in different form factors. We'll see. The thing that makes me sad about all of this, it's the same with headphones. Once you buy a phone, you're in an ecosystem, and that ecosystem traps you into this device. So does this thing actually compete with the Apple Watch? No, it doesn't.
Not in any way. It competes with keeping the money in your pocket. I mean, that's what it is. I will say, I think, again, Samsung has spent a lot of years making a lot of noise about the overall Galaxy ecosystem, and I think has not really delivered a ton on that. But there were some interesting demos today in that they were talking about how you might use the watch to control your glasses and this sort of interplay between those different form factors, watch, glasses, phone. I think both of our feelings about glasses are well established. And ironically, boy, did they not make a compelling case for smart glasses in this entire thing. That they're just like, there was a whole long thing about all of these other devices and why you might want them and what they're for and why they're worth having in this particular shape. And then they're like, glasses. He's just like, well, you could take pictures. Do you like that? Well, okay, so no one knows what smart glasses are for. But they do. They had this thing where it's like, okay, you can use your watch to control your glasses so that you don't have to be, touching your face all the time. And there are these little pieces of the ecosystem that are starting to come together. And it's a real shame that no one else is going to be able to do these things. Apple is more locked in than anybody. Android is a little more open. It will have some more hooks into this stuff. It'll be interesting to see how Google enables that stuff across the ecosystem. But it is true that if you are going to buy one of these phones, you are almost certainly going to buy a Galaxy Watch next to it if you buy a smartwatch because you don't really have any other.
Look, you tuned into a Vergecast live stream about Samsung products. You're going to get some literal Galaxy brain takes. So here's mine. All of these ideas where you're going to buy a Samsung watch to control the Google AI and your Samsung glasses designed by Gentle Monster, whatever nonsense. Fine, whatever. They're all going to run into the same problem, which is the history of user interface is more and more direct manipulation, right? We had you held a mouse in your hand and you would move the arrow and like literally click on the thing you want. And there's like a very direct manipulation of what's happening. We got to touch screens. You're literally pushing on the pixels to change what you want. All of these devices are indirect manipulation, where whatever your hand is doing off in space has almost nothing to do with what you're seeing and controlling. And that stuff is a dead end. It is true on the Meta glasses with the neural band. It's just like it just unwires people's brains in a way that's like, can I just use my phone? I just use my phone, right?
Yeah.
And until you get to like literally like reaching out and pointing and clicking, which runs into all kinds of other problems. Steve Jobs used to call it gorilla arms.
Yeah.
Whatever, man. Like the industry is chasing this stuff, and it is willfully forgetting the things it knows about user interface paradigms.
Yeah, I think that's right. And I mean, we're back to like buttons in cars again, right? People like buttons and knobs. And I think we are probably due for a lot of that. Yeah, exactly. And it turns out that is worth pushing back towards in this case too. There's so many interesting, I encourage everybody to go like look up Brett Victor and all of the work that he's done on how do we make a projector see the room and react as you literally move physical things around as a computer. Wild, exciting stuff out there that I actually think has much more bearing on how reality should work than pinchy pinch in front of my face as I use something. But was there anything in the Watch Ultra that you thought was particularly cool? Are you psyched about 5,000 nits of brightness? They made a big deal out of 5,000 nits of brightness.
No, but I'm not like climbing Everest.
That's 2,000 more nits, Neil.
I'm good, man. Like I'm turning down the brightness on my watch all the time. I have a baby. You understand? Like, the baby's like, do you want me to sleep or do you want me to paw at this watch? Like that. Those are our choices.
Yeah, that's fair. I do think some of the preventative health stuff is interesting. Samsung is resolutely trying to boil everything that it collects about you into a series of scores that it can give you on your watch, which I would say I am kind of constitutionally against. There's nothing I hate more than waking up tired in the morning and having it be like, you get a 59 for last night. I'm like, well, I hate you. Like, we are not friends. You and me. Right now, it's Google Health that I'm furious at. Every morning I wake up and it's like, gosh, you didn't sleep very well last night. And I'm like pouring coffee on my face. I'm like, I'm aware. Thank you, Google Health. But again, they're deep down this, can this be not just a fitness device, but an actual like capital H health device? And I think that's the direction Apple is pushing to. That's the direction Samsung is going. And again, the question of how big is the total addressable market for a device like that for people who want things like that remains unclear to me. But it is interesting to see Samsung really dive after this in the same way. I mean, there is a certain amount of just doing what Apple's doing here. Like they launched a Galaxy card. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
oh wait, by the way, sorry.
Coins in it now. Come on.
That was the funniest part of the whole thing, where the moment where he said stable coins are now in the Samsung wallet and literally paused for applause and got nothing. I mean, like dead air in the room. And then one person goes, woo, and he's like, yeah, stable coins.
That's pretty good.
Terrific.
Health and fitness wise, everyone is chasing Whoop. Like I can't be clear.
I think that's
right. Like they have emerged as a particular kind of market leader in a particular kind of way, and you have a lot of feelings about that. And particularly about whether or not AI is a good or stable or healthy health companion, which V talks about all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Literally today, like this morning, OpenAI got sued for giving incorrect health advice to somebody, and like there's going to be a big lawsuit. So whether or not these metrics and gamifying your health is actually effective in the way that people want it to be effective, I don't know. But I know what everyone's chasing is that number go up is a compelling thing to put on a stat sheet and in marketing materials. And now Samsung can be like, Samsung Health AI is going to do it for you. Whether or not they are the best one or it feels irrelevant to the reality of they're all kind of the same. They all tell you to go to bed at 11 p.m. and get 9 hours of sleep. And they all tell you not to drink so much and like eat a little bit less than you move. And like, I just told you that. Will you pay me the subscription fee?
And the fact that they're all essentially identical products at this point is completely irrelevant because of the ecosystem thing, right? Like you're not actually choosing between a bunch of hard to pick between products. You're picking the one that works with the phone that you have.
Yeah.
And that's the long and short of it. And so great. I think every one of these good features should immediately be copied by every single one of these competitors because it doesn't matter. Like, they're not competitors.
Yeah. I mean, this is going to be this is the fight that maybe AI overcomes. Maybe. I don't know, man.
If Gemini, it becomes the ecosystem unto itself, we get into a really interesting place. I don't think that's happening anytime soon.
It does not seem like it's happening anytime soon.
All right, we should get out of here, but I will say, I think the reviews for these devices are going to be really fascinating. In a sort of unusual way for a phone in 2026, there are a lot of ways these could go. They've made a lot of noise about durability. They've made a lot of noise about whether these devices have creases in the screens. Again, we're back to titanium technology that supposedly makes them stronger, but also cleaner and crisper. There was a very cool video of how they laid out the screen so that it's much more uniform now. Like, this is the kind of stuff that Samsung should be good at now after all of these years of making foldables and theoretically potentially way ahead of everybody else, even the Googles and Apples of the world. But is the battery going to expand and or explode? Are the cameras good enough that you're not going to mind some of the trade-offs on the other devices? Does the actual expansion of size on the Fold in particular make sense? Like, these feel like unknown phones to me in sort of an unusual way, particularly the wide fold. Like, to actually live with that thing for a while, I think is going to be really telling. And I kind of have no idea how it'll land.
I mean, this is why I ranked it first. It's novel in a very particular way, especially if you believe in your heart that talking to Gemini to do agent stuff is a way that we will use phones. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's this. I'm not even selling it, man.
Yeah. So these phones are shipping August 7th. I think everything that was announced today is shipping August 7th. Historically speaking, I would say reviews from everybody will land somewhere between here and there. We will have lots more to talk about, so we'll get back to here. But for now, we should get out of here. Nilay, it's been a pleasure seeing you. We don't talk about gadgets enough. We should talk about gadgets more.
And now the actor who plays Spider-Man.
And now we sit silently while Spider-Man sits up there for a while. All right. Thank you to Travis and Eric who are here producing. Thank you to our whole team for making all of this happen. Thank you to all of you for being here watching and listening and commenting. That's it. That's the Vergecast. Nilay.
Rock and roll.